Hello, I'm Wajat Ahmed. I'm visiting faculty at the OP Jindal Global University. The module is International Conventions and Standards dealing with migrant rights. Let's look at the intended learning outcomes of the module. It's intended to help learners to get an overview of the international legal framework on the issues of migration and the right of the migrants. Help learners to understand the human rights issues in backdrop of the formulation of international legal framework and the challenges in implementing the same. Human rights violations against migrants within and outside the country where he or she is residing are often closely linked to human rights and discriminatory laws. The international human rights instruments and standards provide a broad framework for the protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms of all human beings, including migrants. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, also known as the OHCHR, helps ensure compliance of migration policies, legislation with international human rights standards, with the support from other human rights mechanisms. The human rights mechanism clearly states that all countries have the sovereign right to determine the entry and stay in their respective territories under its laws, but also have the obligation to respect and protect the human rights of all individuals under its control. The international framework for the rights of the migrants includes instruments pertaining to the human rights of migrants, as well as specific rights for the migrant workers under various conventions, declarations, and through protocols. These instruments need to be ratified by the member states. While some human rights treaties have addressed specific aspects of the migration process and helped to further clarify the human rights of the migrants through conventions and protocols for protection, a number of international instruments exist for the regulation of international migration as well as migrant workers. The International Labour Organization, also known as the ILO, has come out with a comprehensive solution to the problems faced by the migrant workers via 3 conventions. Additionally, other conventions too are applicable to the migrants in general. The following table gives the complete details. Now let's look at the international conventions, declarations, and protocols relating to the rights of the migrants. In the conventions and declarations like Convention on the Rights of the Child 1989, International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights 1966, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women 1979, Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, and Degrading Treatment or Punishment 1984. Commitments have also been made to ensure the realization of human rights of migrants by the countries at the international conference, such as the World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna, the International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo, the World Summit for Social Development in Copenhagen and the World Conference on Women in Beijing. The following table will give a brief of each of the conferences which have created opportunities for the countries to adopt them in order to protect the rights of the migrants. Now let's look at the importance and challenges of international legal framework in protecting the rights of the migrants. There's growing consensus that a well-regulated and more comprehensive legal framework for managing international and internal migration would be in the best interest of both states and migrants only when the states are able to adopt the conventions adopted to protect the rights of the migrants. In fact, to be sustainable, international laws through conventions, declarations, and protocols have wide range of issues which has to be addressed by the states, which includes legal channels for migration of persons seeking work opportunities within and outside the country, protecting the rights of migrants and their families, including those who have been trafficked, must be taken care by the states through the cooperation with other countries. Not many states have adopted the important conventions which are necessary for them to regulate and protect the rights of the migrants. Protection of refugees and durable solutions to refugee problems have still not been resolved in many countries like India, which deprives the rights of the migrants. Prevention and prosecution of human trafficking, which happens through illegal migration from one country to another. Issues concerning return readmission and reintegration of migrants who do not have or no longer have authorization to remain in a destination country where he or she has migrated to must be looked into and create avenues for international cooperation in managing the flow of migrants. International conventions and declarations have created avenues to the countries to evolve strong national legal framework to look into issues that have been pointed out, since the states have the power and reasonability to manage movements of people within and outside their borders. Their cooperation is essential. Migration has greatly increased in recent years, bringing into question whether current legislations by the respective states provide sufficient protections for migrants for their well-being and at what cost. International framework provides some solution to the problems that are highlighted. It's to note not many countries have adopted the conventions, and even though problems of the migrants are increasing day by day, it's important to note that countries receiving migrants such as Australia, the Arab states, India have also not ratified the conventions that are required to safeguard the rights of the migrants. Even though there has been development at the international fora to protect the right of the migrants, there are fundamental disagreements among states as to causes and consequences of migration and the extent to which it's in the interests of states to expand or restrict flows of migrants into their respective boundaries. Now let's summarize. This module helps you to understand the responsibility taken by the international institutions in protecting and upholding the rights of the migrants, as well as consolidating issues and concerns through progressive conventions, declarations, protocols, and treaties which have become a model for the states to adopt them nationally in the best interests of the migrants. We have also learned that ratification of the conventions related to migrant rights is disappointing. It's, however, been useful compilation which has become a model for the states to draw points to frame legislations to protect the rights of the migrants. The module teaches us how the international instruments have become a starting point for the development of a well-regulated international system in taking care of varied issues relating to migration. We have come to the end of the module. Thank you very much.